The first sign your marriage is circling the drain isn't the arguments, it's the silence. Sam hadn't looked up from her phone during dinner in 3 weeks, and tonight was no different. She sat across from me at our dining room table, stabbing at her salad while scrolling through Instagram with the dedication of a monk studying scripture. "How was work?" I asked, knowing the answer would be as satisfying as chewing cardboard. "Fine," she mumbled, double-tapping someone's vacation photos. "I'm Eli Granger, and I used to think I was married to the most beautiful woman in Portland, Maine. These days, I feel more like I'm sharing a house with a particularly attractive stranger who happens to split the mortgage with me. Sam's 35, works in HR at some fancy financial firm downtown, and spends more time curating her social media presence than she does talking to her husband of 8 years. Me? I'm a contractor. I fix things for a living. Broken pipes, sagging porches, cracked foundations. The irony isn't lost on me that I can repair everyone's house except my own home life." "Mrs. Rourke mentioned she saw you at that wine bar on Exchange Street yesterday," I said, watching Sam's thumb freeze mid-scroll. "Oh, that." She didn't look up. "Work thing. Boring client meeting." Mrs. Rourke, our 70-year-old neighbor with the curiosity of a private investigator and the discretion of a town crier, had actually said she saw Sam looking quite cozy with that handsome young man in the expensive suit, but I figured I'd start gentle. "Must have been some meeting. She said you were there past 9. Now Sam looked up, her green eyes flashing with that particular brand of irritation reserved for husbands who ask too many questions. "Since when do you and Mrs. Rourke discuss my schedule?" "Since my wife started coming home smelling like expensive cologne that definitely isn't mine." The words hung in the air like smoke from a grease fire. Sam's jaw tightened, and for a moment, I thought we might actually have our first real conversation in months. Instead, she stood up, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "I'm going to bed. Early meeting tomorrow." She left her half-eaten salad on the table and disappeared upstairs, her heels clicking against the steps like a countdown timer. I sat there for another 20 minutes, finishing my beer and listening to the house settle around me. Our home, a respectable 3-bedroom colonial in the suburbs, felt more like a museum these days. Everything perfectly arranged, nothing actually lived in. Around midnight, I crept upstairs. Sam was already asleep, or pretending to be, curled on her side of the bed with her back to me. Her phone sat on the nightstand, screen dark but somehow still radiating importance. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. That's when I remembered something from a job I'd done last month. The homeowner, a tech guy getting divorced, had mentioned how easy it was to access old iCloud backups if you knew the right tricks. "Most people never change their recovery settings," he'd said. "Lazy security will bite you every time." I'd set up Sam's phone years ago when we first got married, back when she trusted me with passwords and I actually cared about making her life easier. Back when we were still pretending we were happy. The next morning, Sam left for work, in her usual whirlwind of perfume and productivity. I waited exactly 10 minutes, then pulled out my laptop. Her old iCloud account was still linked to my computer from when I'd helped her transfer photos 3 years ago. She'd never bothered to remove the access. What I found made my coffee taste like ash. Text after text to someone named Chad. Not just friendly workplace banter, the kind of messages that made my stomach clench with a familiar mixture of rage and humiliation. But worse than the flirting was the group chat she had with her friends Heather and Tori. They called themselves the Christmas Angels, which would have been cute if they weren't using it to coordinate affairs and mock their husbands. "Eli's so clueless," Sam had written just yesterday. "Asked about the wine bar, told him it was work. He bought it completely." Heather's response, "Men are so easy to fool. Just mention work, and they zone out." Tori, "Speaking of which, are we still on for Chad's after-party thing? Hotel suite sounds perfect." Sam, "Absolutely. Already told Eli I'm bringing him to the company Christmas party for appearances. He'll be my cover." I downloaded everything. Screenshots, message threads, photos I wished I'd never seen. My hands were shaking by the time I finished, and it wasn't from the caffeine. That evening, Sam bounced through the front door with more energy than she'd shown in months. "Great news. The company Christmas party is next Friday. You're coming with me." She said it like she was offering me a gift instead of using me as camouflage for her affair. "Can't wait," I said, and meant it in ways she couldn't imagine. The Gutter isn't the kind of bar that appears in tourist guides. Tucked between a pawn shop and a laundromat on Forest Avenue, it's where Portland's working class goes to complain about everything from the weather to their wives. The beer's cheap, the lighting's dim, and the bartender, Gabby, knows more secrets than a Catholic priest. I'd been nursing the same Budweiser for an hour, waiting for the right moment to bring up Sam's extracurricular activities. My buddy Mick sat beside me, working on his fourth beer and his third story about his ex-wife's lawyer. "Speaking of cheating spouses," I said, interrupting his rant about alimony payments. "You know anything about Chad Larkin?" Gabby's ears perked up from behind the bar. She's 50-something with silver hair and the kind of sharp eyes that miss nothing. "Chad Larkin from Pinnacle Financial? Pretty boy with the BMW? That's the one." "Oh, honey," she said, polishing a glass with unnecessary vigor. "What do you want to know?" Mick turned to face me, his weathered face creasing with concern. "Don't tell me Sam's mixed up with that piece of work?" "Let's just say I'm curious about his reputation." Gabby leaned across the bar, dropping her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "That man's been through more married women than I've been through dishwater. Always targets the ones with something to lose. Good jobs, nice houses, respectable husbands." "Real charmer," Mick muttered. "Gets worse," Gabby continued. "Word is he records everything. Insurance policy, he calls it. Makes sure the women can't cause trouble when he gets bored and moves on." My grip tightened on the beer bottle. "You sure about that?" "Honey, I've been tending bar for 25 years. I know a predator when I see one. Your Sam better be careful, assuming that's why you're asking." I drained my beer and stood up. "Thanks for the warning. Too bad it's probably too late." The next few days passed in a blur of forced normalcy. Sam fluttered around the house, humming while she tried on outfits for the party. She'd bought a new dress, black, expensive, and cut to impress someone who definitely wasn't her husband. I complimented it with the enthusiasm of a man praising his own execution. Meanwhile, I did what I do best. I planned. 8 years of marriage had taught me Sam's patterns, her weaknesses, her tells. She was brilliant at reading people's emotions and manipulating them. It made her excellent at her job, but she'd gotten lazy with me. In her mind, I was just reliable old Eli, too boring to be suspicious and too comfortable to be dangerous. She was half right. Thursday evening, I was replacing a faucet in our master bathroom when Sam's phone buzzed on the counter. She was in the shower, shampooing her hair with the expensive stuff she'd started buying lately. The message preview lit up the screen. "Can't wait for tomorrow night. Hotel suite is booked." "We'll see." I memorized the message and went back to my wrench. When Sam stepped out of the shower, I handed her a towel with a smile. "Looking forward to tomorrow night," I said. "Should be fun," she replied. But she wasn't looking at me when she said it. That night, after Sam fell asleep, I sat in my workshop in the basement, surrounded by tools and half-finished projects. I'd always been good with my hands, good at fixing things, good at taking complex problems apart and putting them back together in working order. This wouldn't be any different. I pulled out my phone and started typing a message to Chad Larkin. Thanks to Sam's group chat, I had his number. Thanks to 8 years of marriage, I knew exactly how Sam texted. Her phrases, her emoji choices, her particular way of being flirtatious without being too obvious. "Change of plans for tomorrow," I wrote, mimicking her style. "Meet me in the hotel lobby at 9 p.m. instead. Want to make sure we're not seen together at the party. Can't wait." S. I hit send and watched the message deliver. 3 dots appeared almost immediately as Chad typed his response. "Perfect. I'll be the one in the expensive suit." I set the phone aside and picked up a screwdriver, turning it over in my hands. Tomorrow night, Sam would get the public humiliation she'd been setting me up for. The only difference was she'd be the star of the show instead of me. The irony was delicious. The Eastland Park Hotel's ballroom had been transformed into a winter wonderland, complete with enough twinkling lights to power a small city and an ice sculpture that probably cost more than my truck. Sam looked stunning in her new dress, playing the role of devoted wife with Academy Award-worthy performance. She kept her hand on my arm, smiled at all the right moments, and introduced me to her coworkers like I was a prize she'd won at the county fair. "This is my husband, Eli," she'd say, her voice warm with fake affection. "He's so supportive of my career." I played my part, too, shaking hands and making small talk about the weather while internally cataloging every face, every name, every person who would witness what was about to happen. Chad held court near the bar, his expensive suit and practiced charm drawing a small crowd of admirers. He caught Sam's eye twice during the first hour, each exchange loaded with the kind of tension that should have been reserved for her husband. "Quite a party," I said to Sam during a brief lull in the networking. "Your company really knows how to celebrate." "They spare no expense," she agreed, scanning the room. "I should probably mingle more. You don't mind, do you?" "Of course not. I'll just grab another drink and admire the decorations." She squeezed my hand. a gesture that once would have made my heart skip but now felt like a betrayal, and glided away toward a group of women I recognized from her social media posts. Heather and Tori were there, both dressed to impress and both shooting me pitying looks when they thought I wasn't watching. I made my way to the bar and ordered a whiskey, positioning myself where I could observe the room. Chad was telling some story that had his audience laughing, but his attention kept drifting to Sam. Around 8:30, I watched him check his phone, frown slightly, then excuse himself from his group. The lobby meeting I'd arranged was in 30 minutes. Time to set the stage. I found a house phone near the restrooms and called the hotel's front desk. "Hi, this is Tom from the Pinnacle Financial Party upstairs. We're having some issues with the sound system in Conference Room B. Could you send someone from maintenance to check it out? We're planning to use it for a private presentation later." Conference Room B was 3 doors down from the main ballroom, close enough to be convenient but far enough to provide privacy. Or so Chad and Sam would think. 20 minutes later, I excused myself from a conversation about winter construction projects and made my way downstairs. Chad was pacing in the lobby, checking his Rolex every few seconds. He looked like a man anticipating Christmas morning, which in a way, I suppose he was. I ducked into the hotel's business center and waited. At exactly 9 o'clock, I watched through the glass partition as Sam appeared at the top of the lobby stairs. She'd touched up her makeup and added a spritz of perfume. I could smell it from 20 feet away. Chad's face lit up when he saw her, and they embraced with the kind of familiarity that made my jaw clench. They talked for a few minutes, Sam gesturing toward the elevators while Chad nodded eagerly. Then they disappeared into an elevator car, heading up to what Chad thought would be a romantic evening and Sam thought would be a clever deception. I gave them 10 minutes, then took the stairs to the 3rd floor. The hallway was empty except for a housekeeping cart parked outside one of the rooms. I knocked on the door of the suite Chad had mentioned in his text to Sam. "Room service," I called out. "We didn't order anything," Chad's voice came through the door. "Compliments of Pinnacle Financial, sir. Champagne and strawberries for the Christmas party guests." I heard whispered conversation, then footsteps. The door opened to reveal Chad, his tie loosened and his hair slightly mussed. Behind him, I could see Sam sitting on the edge of the bed, her dress wrinkled and her lipstick smeared. "Surprise," I said, pushing past Chad into the room. "Hope I'm not interrupting anything important." Sam's face went white, then red, then white again. She stood up so fast she nearly fell over, her hand smoothing down her dress in a gesture that was both futile and telling. "Eli, I can explain." "Oh, I'm sure you can," I said, pulling out my phone. "You're so good with explanations. Like how this was a work meeting, right? Very professional atmosphere you've got here." Chad had recovered from his initial shock and was trying to project authority. "Look, buddy, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "The only misunderstanding," I interrupted, "is you thinking I'm as stupid as my wife believes I am." I held up my phone, showing them the screenshots I'd taken of their text messages. Sam's eyes widened as she recognized her own words, her own plans, her own casual cruelty laid bare. "You've been reading my messages?" Her voice cracked with indignation, as if I was the one who'd violated their marriage vows. "Sweetheart, you left your iCloud account linked to my computer 3 years ago. I've been reading your messages for a week." Chad stepped forward, his jaw set in what he probably thought was an intimidating expression. "You need to leave, now." I laughed. Actually laughed, at the absurdity of it. "Or what? You'll call security?" "Please do. I'd love to explain to hotel management how you're using their facilities to conduct your affair with my wife." "It's not what you think," Sam started. "It's exactly what I think. And more importantly, it's exactly what everyone at your Christmas party is going to think when they see these photos." I showed them another screenshot, this one of Sam's group chat with Heather and Tori, complete with their mocking comments about my gullibility and their detailed plans for the evening's deception. "You wouldn't," Sam whispered. "Wouldn't I? You've spent months making me look like a fool, Sam. Seems only fair to return the favor." Chad grabbed his jacket from a chair, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "This is harassment. I could have you arrested." "For what? Catching my wife in a hotel room with another man? I'm pretty sure that's called marriage, not harassment." He stormed past me toward the door, but I wasn't finished with him yet. "Chad," I called out, "you might want to check your car before you drive home tonight. I hear the parking garage can be rough on expensive vehicles." He paused, his hand on the doorknob. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing specific. Just general advice about taking better care of your possessions." After he left, Sam and I stood in the hotel room, 8 years of marriage reduced to this moment of truth. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streams. "How long have you known?" she asked. Long enough to plan this conversation. Not long enough to stop caring that it was necessary. I never meant for it to happen. But you meant for it to continue. You meant to use me as cover tonight. You meant to keep lying to my face every morning over coffee. She had no answer for that, which was answer enough. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. The Christmas party's probably winding down by now. You should get back. Wouldn't want people to notice you're missing. Eli, please. See you at home, Sam. We need to discuss the new arrangements. I left her there in the hotel room, surrounded by the wreckage of her perfect plan and the expensive champagne she'd never get to drink. The house felt different when I got home that night. Less like a prison and more like a battlefield where I'd finally stopped retreating. I sat in my workshop until 3 a.m, not building anything, just thinking and planning. Sam came home around midnight, her heels clicking up the stairs like a funeral march. She didn't come down to find me, and I didn't go up to comfort her. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up, leaving only a note on the kitchen counter. Staying at Heather's for a few days. We need space to figure this out. Space, as if geography was our problem instead of her lying, cheating, and treating our marriage like an inconvenience to be managed. I made coffee and checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Sam, 2 text messages asking me to, please be reasonable about this, and 1 voicemail that I deleted without listening to. Then I opened my laptop and got to work. The beauty of the internet is that information wants to be free, and social media makes everyone an amateur detective. I'd spent years watching Sam curate her online presence, crafting the perfect image of successful career woman and devoted wife. Her Instagram was a carefully constructed lie, full of couple photos and inspirational quotes about love and commitment. Time to add some truth to the narrative. I created a new email account and started reaching out to people. Not random strangers, that would be cruel and pointless, but Sam's coworkers, her social circle, the people who'd been buying into her performance for months while she mocked her husband behind closed doors. The first message went to Tori, whose jealousy of Sam had been obvious in their group chat messages. I attached screenshots of Sam's most cutting comments about her friend, including one particularly nasty exchange where Sam had called Tori desperate and pathetic for flirting with Chad before she'd claimed him for herself. The second message went to Sam's boss, a no-nonsense woman named Patricia who ran Pinnacle Financial's HR department with military precision. I included the group chat screenshots that showed Sam discussing her affair during work hours and using company events as cover for her deception. The third message went to Chad's ex-wife, whose contact information I'd found through a combination of social media stalking and public record searches. She deserved to know that her ex-husband was still the same cheating snake she'd divorced 2 years earlier. By noon, my phone was buzzing with activity. First Heather called, screaming about harassment and threatening to involve lawyers. Then Tori called, crying and asking if the screenshots were real. Finally, Sam called. "What have you done?" Her voice was shaking with rage and panic. "I've told the truth. Revolutionary concept, I know." "You sent those messages to my boss? To Patricia? Eli, you could ruin my career." "Your career? What about our marriage? Or does that not matter as long as your LinkedIn profile stays intact?" "This is insane. You can't just destroy my life because you're angry." "I'm not destroying your life, Sam. I'm just refusing to help you maintain the lie anymore." She hung up on me, but not before I heard her sobbing. Once upon a time, that sound would have broken my heart. Now it just sounded like justice. That afternoon, I drove to the gutter for a beer and an update from Gabby, who always had her finger on the pulse of local gossip. She greeted me with a knowing smile and a cold Budweiser. "Heard you had an interesting weekend," she said, polishing glasses with the efficiency of someone who'd been doing it for decades. "News travels fast." "Honey, in this town, news travels faster than gossip, and gossip travels faster than sound. Patricia Morrison was in here last night madder than a wet cat. Seems she had to deal with some HR issues at work." "Patricia drinks here?" "Every Friday after work, like clockwork. Orders 2 whiskey sours and complains about her employees. Last night she was going on about having to investigate misconduct allegations and how she can't stand people who mix their personal drama with company business." I took a long sip of beer, processing this information. "Sounds stressful. Gets better. That pretty boy Chad was in here earlier today, looking like someone had run over his dog. Kept checking his phone and muttering about crazy husbands and legal action." "Legal action?" Gabby leaned across the bar, lowering her voice. "Word is his car got vandalized in the hotel parking garage Friday night. Someone filled his exhaust pipe with expanding foam and keyed 'home wrecker' into the paint job." I tried to look surprised. "That's terrible. Any idea who might have done something like that?" "Oh, I'm sure it was completely random. Just one of those unfortunate coincidences that happen when you park expensive cars in public places. We shared a moment of understanding, the kind that passes between people who appreciate poetic justice. Speaking of coincidences, Gabby continued, your wife was in here this morning with her friend Heather. Both of them looked like they'd been crying for hours. Heather kept going on about privacy and boundaries, while Sam just sat there staring at her phone like it might explode. Rough day for everyone, I guess. Seemed like it. They left when Chad showed up, didn't even finish their drinks. Waste of good alcohol, if you ask me. I finished my beer and left a generous tip. Outside, the December air was crisp and clean, carrying the promise of snow and new beginnings. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe properly. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam. We need to talk. Tonight, please. I typed back, I'll be home after dinner. Bring your things. I assume you'll want to pack. Her response came immediately. Don't do this, Eli. We can work it out. But we both knew that wasn't true. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed, no matter how good you are with tools. Sam was waiting in our living room when I got home, surrounded by cardboard boxes and the remnants of our shared life. She'd been crying again. Her eyes were red and puffy, and she'd given up on makeup entirely. For a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married 8 years ago, vulnerable and real instead of polished and perfect. Then she opened her mouth, and the illusion shattered. Patricia put me on administrative leave pending an investigation, she said without preamble. Tori won't return my calls. Heather thinks I'm a terrible person, and Chad's threatening to sue both of us for harassment. Sounds like you're having a rough week. This isn't a joke, Eli. You've destroyed everything I worked for. I sat down across from her, noting how she'd arranged herself on the couch like she was giving a performance. Even in crisis, Sam couldn't stop managing her image. I didn't destroy anything, I said calmly. I just stopped helping you maintain the destruction you'd already caused. By violating my privacy and humiliating me in front of everyone I work with. Your privacy? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Sam, you were planning to use me as cover for your affair. You and your friends spent months mocking me in your group chat, calling me clueless and pathetic. Where was my privacy in all of that? She had the grace to look ashamed, but only for a moment. That was different. We were just venting. You were just lying. To me, to your friends, to yourself. And when I finally called you on it, you want to play the victim. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Multiple choices. Over months of planning and deception. The only mistake you made was getting caught. Sam stood up and began pacing, her hands gesturing wildly as she built up to what I recognized as her closing argument. She'd always been good at debates, at finding the angle that would make her opponent feel guilty or unreasonable. Fine, she said. I had an affair. I lied to you. I hurt you, and I'm sorry. But what you've done in response is so much worse. You've tried to destroy my career, my friendships, my reputation. Your reputation was built on lies. And for what? Revenge? Does it make you feel better, knowing that I might lose my job? I considered the question seriously. Did it make me feel better? The honest answer was complicated. It didn't heal the hurt or erase the betrayal, but it did something else. It balanced the scales. For months, I'd been the only one paying the price for our failing marriage, absorbing Sam's indifference and cruelty while she got to play the role of successful, desirable woman having her cake and eating it too. It makes me feel like I'm not the only one dealing with consequences anymore, I said finally. So this is punishment. This is truth. Everything I've shared with people is true. Your own words, your own choices, your own actions. If the truth is punishment, maybe you should have considered that before you decided to live a lie. Sam stopped pacing and turned to face me, her expression shifting from anger to desperation. What do you want from me, Eli? What will it take to make this stop? I want you to leave. Tonight. Take your boxes and your excuses and your victim complex and get out of my house. Our house. My house. Check the deed. It's in my name because my credit was better when we bought it, just like the mortgage is in my name and the utilities and pretty much everything else you've been taking for granted while you played house with Chad. The legal reality hit her like a slap. In her rush to maintain the perfect image, Sam had let me handle all the boring details of our life together. Finances, property, insurance. She'd been content to be the pretty face of our marriage while I dealt with the foundation. Now the foundation was cracking, and she was about to find out what it felt like to fall. You can't just throw me out, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. I'm not throwing you out. I'm declining to continue subsidizing your lifestyle while you cheat on me. Big difference? I have nowhere to go. You have Heather. You have Chad. You have all those friends who thought it was so funny when you were mocking your stupid husband. Heather won't talk to me, and Chad... She trailed off, unwilling to admit that her lover had abandoned ship the moment things got complicated. And Chad turned out to be exactly what everyone said he was, a coward who only wants the fun parts of an affair, not the messy consequences. Sam sank back onto the couch, the fight going out of her like air from a punctured tire. I never meant for it to go this far. You never meant to get caught. There's a difference. I loved you, Eli. I still love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the reliable husband who pays the bills and doesn't ask too many questions, but you don't love me enough to be faithful or honest or even kind. She was crying again, but this time it felt real instead of performative. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are. You're sorry you got caught, sorry there are consequences, sorry your perfect plan fell apart. But you're not sorry enough to have stopped before it came to this. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our quiet suburban street. Mrs. Rourke was walking her dog, probably hoping to catch some drama from our house. She'd have plenty to talk about tomorrow. The boxes are packed, Sam said quietly. I'll be gone by morning. Good. What happens now? With us, I mean. I turned back to face her, this woman who'd shared my bed and my life and my dreams for 8 years before deciding I wasn't worth her fidelity. Now, you figure out who you are when you're not lying to someone who loves you, and I figure out who I am when I'm not being lied to. Will you ever forgive me? The question hung in the air between us, heavy with years of shared history and broken promises. I thought about forgiveness, about second chances, about the man I'd been before I learned what betrayal felt like. Maybe someday, I said finally, but not today, and probably not tomorrow either. Sam nodded, accepting this small mercy for what it was. More than she deserved, less than she wanted. After she left, I sat in my empty house, surrounded by the spaces where her things used to be. The silence was different now, not the cold absence of connection, but the clean quiet of a fresh start. I poured myself a whiskey and raised it in a toast to the empty room. Here's to keeping up appearances, I said aloud, and to the beautiful moment when you finally stop. The whiskey burned going down, but it was a good burn, the kind that reminds you you're still alive, still capable of feeling something other than pain. Outside, it started to snow,